That's honestly what it is.
I have literally had a banker at the highest level, one of the highest levels, there's levels, but one of the highest levels, literally tell me that banks operate like a cartel in Canada, in this country.
They do. And when you understand that, you understand that the government and the banks are one. The federal government's dangling $30-40 million of whatever our money, essentially. Yeah. And you might say, well, if I'm a counselor, if I get $30-40 million in an increase in my budget, I can give myself a little bonus. Maybe I can hire more people. We can build our infrastructure better. We can upgrade these roads and sewers and whatever else they're thinking. So it's pretty hard to turn that down. And there's probably some corruption mixed in there too. Who knows? But that's my plan. That's their plan, right? Hold rates, stabilize the market, build as many rentals as possible, then cut rates into the election. Housing market takes off. People at least have a rental to go take. Because rents are rising 10, 15, 20% right now a year. Why? Still, because we don't have enough rentals. And people are priced out of the market, so you have to go rent. Yeah. So they've caught themselves in a conundrum that I'm telling people, like, if you're an investor or developer, you can go take advantage of this right now. You've got a 10-year runway here of like a shortage of housing. They're not going to stop pumping people into the country. They might slow it, but they're not going to stop it. And we're still talking hundreds of thousands of people a year, folks. So this runway is setting up beautifully. Now, the problem has been you can't buy resale multifamily that makes any money in Ontario because you're stuck with below market rents, blah, blah, blah. The beautiful thing about building new, as we know, if it's built after 2018, it does not fall under rent control in Ontario. Okay, so I've got some new product as well, and my rents have gone up significantly because my expenses have gone up significantly. My older stuff,
What do you mean when you say it doesn't fall within rent control?
Any new construction property built after 2018 or significantly renovated after 2018, if I understand correctly, doesn't fall under, you can raise rents to market rent. It doesn't fall under the 2.5% cap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now you can only raise them once a year still and whatever else, but I've raised some rents. Like some of my tenants are a little bit pissed. And I said, look, I could have raised these more just so you know, and this, and this leased a lot higher. If you want to end your lease because you're not happy, no problem. At the same time, I feel bad. I don't want to raise my rents 25%. I feel bad, but here's what happened to my mortgage payments. Here's what happened to my utilities, insurance, everything else. Sorry, I have no choice.
Why do you think they did that for
why
property?
It was Doug Ford.
Yeah, why? Why do you think he did it?
Because he has a little bit of a free market mindset, right? So instead of allowing all of Ontario to do, that'd be a hard sell because he kind of snuck it in there. So
I'd love to be in the room where they're like, hey, we're gonna do it at we think 2018 is the year, is like the threshold that we're going to do it. You know what I mean? When did that actually come out?
I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder if it was like a 5-year,
it might have been.
Why 2018, right? I'd love to be in the room where these politicians are making these
Maybe
policies.
They did it under the guise of hey, people that are building new construction rentals, they need to be able to adjust their rents or they're not going to build them. Maybe they did it under some guise of that.
So moving forward into the future, say for example, you have a 2019 build, right? And the rent now is $2,000 a month, call it. No matter what, going forward into the future, you can raise that rent however much you want at market, and you're not beholden to that government set rule.
You're not. The only thing you're beholden to is the market, right?
Got it.
Can I get $2,500 here? Okay, well, I'm raising your rent to $2,500. If you want to leave, I'll get it from somebody else.
And that also means significantly renovated as well.
There's another clause in there where it's if you flip a whole property and up whatever, you can sneak it in there. That might be a little bit tougher, but there is something about that in there.
Give me a little bit more. Maybe people can chime in here as well. But what kind of more? What's the nuances with that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Because I'm not interested in those projects, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that?
See, I like that.
Well, I used to like that until they offered you 95% financing up front.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll finance the build. It's to the point where you could probably, let's say you have a project that's $2 million. You could probably go to them and say, hey, you know what? If you control your costs properly, right? If your contractor is able to control their costs, you could say, well, we can do it for $2 million, but we're going to give you a budget of 2.3. Now they're giving you 95% of 2.3. Okay. So you're actually going to get your liquidity out before the project starts at the first draw, pretty much. So then you can extend amortizations to 50 years, okay? And I'll do that every time because I'm not paying the interest. As long as the market fundamentals are stable and I'm not taking on excess risk, I'm going to do that every single time. Now, you have to understand, this is a government this is CMHC. They're underwriting you, right? They're underwriting the deal, essentially. You don't think, I know you like to say if the banks are going to give you the money, that means they've done their due diligence here. Like, it's the government program. So they're doing their due diligence. It is hard to get this, right? They're qualifying you. They're qualifying the builder. How many projects have you done? Are you able to manage rentals, right? That's part of the process. Do you have the liquidity if something went wrong to like absorb shocks and build costs, whatever else? So it's a pretty stringent qualifying process, but not that stringent if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I do remember the process. It wasn't that crazy.
It's not. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But it's doable. But those little annoyances deter most people from doing it. So
yeah, you don't say.
Now, yeah. So do you agree with this kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
No rate cuts.
Yeah, I agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah, no rate cuts. So high rates that are preventing people from moving. So we have a standoff right now. Sellers aren't selling.
It's a really weird. Yeah.
Sellers aren't selling because they don't have to. They're locked in. I'm just going to hold my ground. I'm not buying anything else. I'm not getting what I want from my...
What do you mean locked in?
They're just like, why would I sell, right? I've got a mortgage at 2%, 2.5, 3%.
But...
So we have to understand people
Canada,
are... Well, for 5 years, right?
Term out.
Yeah, but a lot of these people, like, unless you bought at the peak of the market, you're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity.
Yeah.
Everybody across the country, right?
Yeah.
If you bought... Most people didn't buy in 2022.
Yeah.
They bought 20 years ago. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. Their house is paid off, right? The actual number of people that are in trouble right now is probably pretty low.
Yeah.
Because you got to understand, wages are up probably about 20% on average since 2020, since the COVID pandemic. In 2022, I think wages are up 10% in the country. That's aggregate. So that includes like minimum wage.
Yeah.
So people that have above average jobs got significant wage increases. Most people are sitting on significant equity, right? Like most people aren't in this pinch. There's a lot of people that are, not to mitigate them, but most people are, they are, but they don't own a home.
Yeah.
Right? So the people that own homes, really the percentage that are in significant trouble. Then you factor on the fact that there's a new mortgage charter that the Liberals put out, basically telling banks, you have to work with people on their mortgages. You have to extend their mortgage, right? It's a charter. It's not a rule.
Remember we were talking about this, that the people that have the gold will change the rules because they want their fucking money back.
100%.
They want their money back. They will not. The banks are not interested in being landlords. The banks are interested in getting that return, and the return is your mortgage. And if you can't pay it, or you just hand over the keys, that's no good for anybody. You
have to understand, if they were taking 10, 15% of the mortgages and having to fire sale them, the value of those properties and the whole market would go down so significant. They would lose so much money. Now, because we're in an oligopoly in Canada and the banks and the government are one.
Define an oligopoly.
It's 4 or 5 major companies that control the entire market. They make it look like a free market, but it's really not. Yeah. And they all collude, right? Oh, our rate's a quarter point less than yours, so it seems like a free market, but it's not. Yeah. And they're all controlled by the government essentially with heavy regulation.
Borderline a monopoly.
It's a cartel. Essentially the telecom.
What is a cartel?
It's that's honestly what it is.
I have literally had a banker at the highest level, one of the highest levels, there's levels, but one of the highest levels, literally tell me that banks operate like a cartel in Canada, in this country. They
do. And when you understand that, you understand that the government and the banks are one. Yeah. Okay? They appear to be separate, but they're not. Yeah. So the banks, when they go to the government and say, we have a mortgage cliff upcoming, you better do something about this because we don't want all these houses. We're going to lose our shirts. Yeah. And the government's saying, well, we don't want a market crash either, because if people start losing their money, they start taking to the streets and they vote us out. Yeah. What are you going to do? Yeah. What are you going to do? Are you going to push? Are you going to not extend their amortizations? Of course you are. Now, we were talking about this years ago. They're not going to let the market crash, is what we said, right? And most people that are calling for a crash don't understand that, like you said, the rules of that were in place at that time appeared that we were going to get a market crash. But what do we say?
The market
just change they'll just change the rules.
They'll manipulate it.
They'll change the money. They'll change the rules. They'll print money.
This is why. Oh my God, I don't understand how people can just not understand this. Every time people like think I'm like this weird. What do they even call us?
Bootlicker?
But that's not what that is it? Is that,
I have no idea.
I think a bootlicker is like you're like a corporate guy that will do anything to get ahead, or isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it was not the right word that
I can't remember. It's like
that is it.
The opposite of like a real estate bear. What is it? What is like a
permeable maybe?
like a permeable or like whatever, right?